Do it, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. A lot of people have asked me today as we're walking through the visitor center what these medals are for on my uniform, and I'm very happy to tell them it's for being such a great guitar player. This next song has got some very historic significance to it. The story of this song starts in September of 1861. A young lady by the name of Ethel Lynn Beers. She was born December 8, 1828 in Goshen, New York. She became a published poet before the American Civil War and short story writer. She is reading the newspaper and she reads an article where they have interviewed George McClellan, of course the mastermind of the Army of the Potomac at that time. And they asked George how the war was going. His canned response to the media was always, "All quiet along the Potomac," and he moved on. Well, Ethel really didn't think much of George. The very next article beside it was where a young Union picket, had been shot and killed by a Confederate sniper on a beautiful moonlit night along the Potomac River. And Ethel realized how quickly these men just became anonymous little newspaper articles. No name, no news of where he was from, if he had a family, if he had a wife, didn't know anything about him, and she thought that was just a little cold that early in the war. So she would write a poem, a beautiful 6-verse poem called The Picket Guard, 5 or 6 verses. We'll find out here in a minute. But anyway, The Picket Guard was an interesting poem, and in the poem she gives him a wife, 2 children that are sleeping back home. He is walking his beat on a beautiful moonlit night, the same way it was the night they got married, so he's thinking of his wife as well. In the last verse he meets his fate. The Picket Guard was published in Harper's Weekly on November 30th, 1861. In late 1862, a Confederate private by the name of Lamar Fontaine approached a well-known musician and writer by the name of John Hill Hewitt in South Carolina, and he handed him a handwritten copy of the poem and said, "Look at what I wrote when I was on guard duty in Virginia." And these 2 guys set this thing to music, and they call it All Quiet Along the Potomac Tonight, and it becomes a huge hit. Back up north, 2 other guys realized, first of all, they didn't write the poem. They stole Hewitt's melody. They called it their song, and they called it The Picket Guard and had it published up north and took complete credit for it. After the war, Ethel Lynn Beers hauled all 4 of these guys into federal court, sued them for the first music infringement lawsuit in the copyright business, and won it. And it changed everything. That led to the Copyright Act by the United States Congress in 1870. As we moved into the 1870s, Ethel continued writing short stories and poems. She was approached by several publishers to make a book, a collection of her work. And she said, "No, I'm a very superstitious person. I've always believed that if I do that, I'll come to an untimely death, and I don't want to do it." Well, she finally gave up. They really pressured her, and she thought, well, there will be some money in it. So she allowed them to publish a collection of her work. It is called All Quiet Along the Potomac. Still available on Amazon.com, folks, and still in print today. It was that popular. But the book was released on October 9th, 1879. Ethel Lynn Beers dropped dead on October 10th, 1879. So when people tell you something, you need to listen to them.
You don't need to listen to them.
And this is a point in time when people say, "Steve, do you make all this up?" No, I don't. Let's see if the old guy can remember all these words. Are you ready? All quiet along the Potomac, they say, except now and then a stray picket is shot as he walks on his beat to and fro by a rifleman hid in the thicket. 'Tis nothing, a private or 2 now and then, no account in the news of the battle. Not an officer lost, only one of the men moaning out all alone the death rattle. All quiet along the Potomac tonight. All quiet along the Potomac tonight, where the soldiers lie peacefully dreaming, and the tents in the rays of a clear autumn moon, and the lights of the campfires are gleaming. There's only the sound of that lone sentry's tread as he tramps from the rock to the fountain, and he thinks of his 2 on the low trundle bed, far away on a cot in the mountains. All quiet along the Potomac tonight. His His musket falls slack, his face dark and grim, grows gentle with memory tender, as he mutters a prayer for his children asleep, and their mother, may heaven defend her. The moon seemed to shine as brightly as then, that night with a love yet unspoken, crept up to his lips, and with low murmured vows was pledged to be ever unbroken. All quiet along the Potomac tonight. Then drawing a sleeve roughly over his eyes, he dashes off tears that are welling, and he gathers his gun close up to its place, as if to keep down his heart swelling. He passes the fountain, that blasted pine tree, and his footstep is lagging and weary, but onward he goes through the broad belt of light, toward the shade of the forest so dreary. All quiet along the Potomac tonight. Hark, was it the night wind that rustled the leaves? Was it the moonlight so wondrously flashing? It looked like a rifle, oh Mary, goodbye, and his lifeblood is ebbing and plashing. All quiet along the Potomac tonight, no sound save the rush of the river, while soft falls the dew on the face of the dead. The pickets off duty forever, all quiet along the Potomac tonight. I made that up too.
And it rhymes.